Hello and welcome. Today we're going to continue our series on the introduction to the IEP Toolkit. As I told you before, the IEP Toolkit is going to be released early next week, and we're really excited to offer this service to parents and to advocates if they want to use it. They're more than welcome to it as well. But right now, what we're doing is kind of going through and doing some sneak peeks as to what will be in there and give parents an idea of how to better serve their children in the IEP process. So, um, basically, what we're working on is a different approach for different learners. And in order to be different, we have to be educated. Traditionally, parents would go to IEP meetings, very deferential to the educators and to the team, and not really understand truly what their unique role is in the IEP process. Parents are kids' first teachers. We teach them where their nose is. We teach them the ABCs. We teach them um, colors. We teach them that this is the bed and this is the blanket and this is a shoe. And so, from very early on, parents, not even intentionally, are teaching their children. And so, that is really the tantamount reason that parents are so necessary to the process. The other reason is because you know your child better than anyone. And the third reason is that you are the person who is knows your child, you know about the curriculum, you know about the school, you know about the disability, and you're the one who can say the buck stops here and essentially say, yep, that's working, that's not working. I'm watching my child every day. If our IEP is done properly, there's measurable goals that I can measure. I can see the progress just as well as you can, educators and teachers and other therapists or people involved with the education. Basically, my model and what I promote to parents all the time is that you have to plan, prepare, and then advocate. And that's how the toolkit is set up as well. And it will explain um, or make you answer questions, hard questions about your child. And remember, this process is not just about how your child learns. This process is also about how your child needs to be taught. So with that in mind, um, the you know, let's talk. When we did a whole session the other day on advocacy, and so I'm going to do like a quick overview of what we need by advocacy, and then we are going to go hard into parents and the importance of parents and the role of parents in the in getting ready for the advocacy portion. So basically, an advocate is someone who speaks, pleads, or argues in favor of a solution. It can be, and in this case, when we're dealing with education, we're dealing with advocating for the child's rights, their right to a free and appropriate education, their right to have that education in the least restrictive environment, and also their civil rights. You can uh, be the person who advocates to make sure that the playing field is level, that your child has equal access to the curriculum, even if it looks differently. It's all very important. There's different kinds of people who can be great supports and sources of information for parents. Parents are the natural advocates for their children, and but you're not alone. And there are many resources out there that are support groups for parents, places where you can brainstorm with other parents, find out what's working, what's not working, and find some really creative solutions. And that's part of the planning and preparation for the IEP meeting is you got to do your homework. You have to your number one job is to be able to report where your child is now. Remember, IEPs are a less than 1 year document. So we have issues with where is my child now because of the stay-at-home order and all those kids not being able to access education or curriculum in the same manner that they would have if they were in a brick and mortar school. And so, with that in mind, we have no baseline data right now. So, evaluations need to be conducted. We talked about that yesterday, the importance of trying to get these evaluations done during the summer so that the child can be off and running in the fall, whatever that education is going to look like, whether it's distance, online, half and half, brick and mortar, whatever it's going to be. So, with that being said, it's imperative that parents know the rules of the game. The only way that you can learn the rules of the game is to consult with other parents, other experts, as well as you can always talk to the individual members of the team, even if you're not sitting in the meeting. You can send an email. You can ask questions. You can, one family was getting packets during the stay-at-home distance learning period that required the child to write, and the child can't write. So it became a whole issue since they didn't have access to a tablet or a computer, how this child was going to be able to have access to the curriculum. And and we're still fighting that battle. But so you have to make sure that whatever it's going to take for your child to access learning, they have, regardless of where that is. And so, as part of your planning and preparation for the IEP meeting, you should document those kinds of things. And you should also educate yourself about the local school district and the services that they provide. I am amazed by how many people have never just stalked the special education portion of the district website. Now, if you're in an intermediate school district, then you want to look at the individual school as well as the school district or intermediate school district at where that falls. You also may want to look at some of the alternative buildings that are described there and see what they offer and what they can do. A lot of times people are shocked and amazed by the ratios in some ASD, autism spectrum disorder classrooms. The ratio is 5 to 1 students to teacher, and in some it's 12 to 1. Not very many, but they're out there. So the more you educate yourself about your district, what your school, what it can offer, what's offered in other buildings, um, you will be a world ahead in having these constructive discussions. It's obviously also important to know your legal rights and to know what the IDEA guarantees and the difference between the IDEA and 504, how they can cross over, and what trumps what, and why some kids have IEPs for some things and 504s for other things, and really understanding what that looks like in how education is delivered to your child, as well as what that looks like from a teacher's view of what how to make it happen. We can ask for things, left, right, up, and down, but if there's no vehicle to make it happen, it doesn't matter. So it's also important to recognize and understand that the law guarantees your child an appropriate education, not the best education, and not an education that maximizes your child's potential. So a lot of times I hear from people, my child is they're dumbing my child down, dumbing my child down. My child already knows how to read. My child already knows how to do this. So that's where this becomes really important. If the placement is going to help enhance the skills that this child is not excelling in, then it's it may be an appropriate placement. Again, it doesn't have to maximize potential to be what the law guarantees, and it doesn't have to uh, and it doesn't have to be the best. It just has to be appropriate for your child. Again, this is where parents come in. If you believe that the work that your child is getting in a particular placement in a particular subject is not what your child it doesn't match up with your child's ability, then in that IEP meeting that you're going to plan for in advance, you're going to say, hey, can you give my child an enrichment packet in this? The work isn't challenging. He's bored. He's complaining. He can't stay focused, whatever it is. And you should also not just say it in the IEP meeting, you need to say it in writing before the IEP meeting. You need everything has to be in writing. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. And yesterday we talked all about writing and how to write and ways to write and how to be an effective writer when you're communicating with the school. And that is continued throughout the process. You have to keep your log, you have to keep your calendar, you have to keep your journal, and you have to keep your toolkit, which you'll learn about more next week. But these are some of the things that are going to be held in the toolkit. And you also want to be the person with the solution, not just the person with the problems. So if things are working for you at home, you should have them written down so that you can pass that information along at the meeting. Part of preparation for the meeting, I always tell parents, is you should get a blank copy of the IEP form. Go through it, put what you think should go there. And then when you are going through the form during the meeting, then when you're in the proper section, you can express your concern or your interest or your idea or more development that needs to happen there or whatever it is in order to so that they're hearing it when they're in the right part of the document, and then it can be included. We've had a lot of issues with IEPs where parents have a lot of concerns and they're not addressed in the meeting, they're not addressed in the IEP, they're partially addressed in the meeting, but it's not reflected in the IEP. So unless this is all going on in writing, this is all prepared, we don't have a way to show that this really was presented as a problem and it really wasn't addressed. As we talked about yesterday, you always want to make sure that your writing is clear so that a stranger could pick it up and figure out that something is wrong and what is wrong and how that concern was communicated, what that concern stems from, and what the solution that you proposed as a parent was. Now, a lot of people say, why do I have to give the solution? I'm not the one who went to school for this. I do X. Well, you don't, but you are definitely better at initiating a successful conversation that will result with a better ending than than not. If you have the win-win solution in mind, of course, it can be adapted, it can be modified, it can be changed, it can, you can receive input from others, but you should have some idea of what that end goal is going to be. The other thing that you really need as a parent, you need to be organized. And there's nothing worse for me in any case, for any client that or prospective client that walks in my office, when they come in with a Target bag full of all their papers. I'm just like, ah, because in the meeting, you may have to reference something and you need to be able to find it. So recommend that you get a binder or a 3-ring notebook, have a 3-hole punch, have highlighters, have sticky notes, have envelopes, stamps, obviously your calendar, your journal, and your log. And you may also want to have a small tape recorder or have an app on your phone, such as the Philips Recorder or iDictate, Drag and Dictate. Those are all really helpful for doing voice memos quickly, one touch. And it would allow you to record any meeting or any interactions that you have. But the biggest part of planning is having a master plan. Where is your child going? What does your child want to be when he or she grows up? What are your child's strengths? And how are we going to use the strengths to make up for the weaknesses? That is the critical piece that parents have to understand after they understand the disability. And when I say understand the disability, it doesn't just mean there's a label. It means how, or there's a description or definition. It means how does this diagnosis, this disability, this difference in my child really affect my child's ability to function, to communicate, to behave, to understand or not understand consequences, to learn how, and you really need to understand, and especially in the ADHD world, you know, lots of kids have ADHD. Not two of them have it manifested the same way. So you have to really understand how this disability manifests itself and affects other things in your child's day-to-day life. The other thing that we see a lot is that parents are really good at understanding how it affects them, the child in school, but they've never really looked at how it's affecting them at home or in their interaction with the world. And all of those things can be considered in your master plan for your child going forward, and then subsequently in the IEP. The IEP is a short lived document, 1 year at a time, it's actually 9 months at a time. It's not even a year for most kids. The Your parent plan or master plan or whatever you want to call it is going to be your child's whole education. You are going to start with, what do I want my child to achieve this month, this, this next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however long till they graduate from high school. And then, but maybe graduating from high school isn't even the goal. Then where are they going to get out of traditional school and pursue either, a vocational program or an online program, or something for, more tactile learners, experiences, apprenticeships, whatever you envision for your child should be in the plan. If they're planning on going to college, if they're planning on independent living, if they're planning on learning how to be an ace tennis player, I mean, whatever it is, it should be in your parent plan. And in your parent plan, you are creating the blueprint for your child's future. And it is a blueprint because it's not realistic to assume that your child or others who are helping your child achieve long term goals are going to be able to get there without step by step instructions. So that's really important. And it should include services and supports that your child needs. It should be efficient. The only way that it's efficient is if you plan and anticipate problems and you prepare for the worst, that this isn't going to work this way, so we're going to have to divert and go that way, and think those things through. If you know what your child's goals are beyond the period of time for the IEP that you're working on right this minute, then you can really, hone in on the IEP and what is going to make it a successful component of the overall strategy and plan. The IEP, again, is considered short-term objectives of the long-term parent plan, student plan, master plan, whatever you want to call it. So what should be in this plan? Well, obviously, you should have in the plan what the future holds, a sort of vision statement. As a parent, what do you see for your child? And then, what does your child see for him or herself? Remember, they're a very, very important part of this process. Okay? The next thing is is this is unique to parents. Is write a statement, a personal statement about the reasons that you're advocating for your child, the reason that you are doing all this research, the reason you are making sure you're at the meeting, the reason that you believe you need to be helping your child. And it's funny because a lot of people write that statement and then they forget about it. And it's, in the same way that, I have a personal quote that I live by, and that's don't dream it, be it. And, you know, I have that quote written down in many places. Sometimes I just open a drawer and there's my stick-em note that says it, and I just smile because it means a lot to me in a lot of different contexts, and not just literally, but figuratively. And this statement that you're writing to describe what's motivating you and who you are as a parent in regards to, uh, you know, taking steps to assure your child gets, you know, what he or she deserves. Really, it's your emotional commitment. Um, it's your passion. It's what makes you tick. And it's really important for your child to understand that as well if they're old enough, because children often feel like they're broken if they have a disability. And if they see that the person or persons who love them the most have made this a priority and a passion, and they have a commitment to it and to the success of that child, regardless of obstacles and challenges, the child is going to feel much, much better about his or herself. Really, really important. When you're writing the goals, you should write them as outcomes. So, um, if you're going to, you can set academic and non-academic goals, and I always recommend that people do both, because a lot of times the non-academic goals are easier to reach. They're more of the fun stuff, not the have to do stuff. So that's it should all be included in the plan. And it should be worded, as I said, as outcomes. So my child will be able to blank, and then you can put a time frame on it if you want to, in 2 months, by next year, by the time they finish their learning, or whatever you want. You should also do a strategy area, and that just helps you to make decisions and solve problems, overcome obstacles, um, because you've thought about them in advance and how you can work them out. So that's really, really important. Timelines are imperative, as everything is in education, so those should also be included. So things that we want to put in our plan. We're going to gather information, and it's going to have academic and non-academic goals. It's going to list personal hobbies and interests, sports and fitness, friends, um, social life should be included. Maybe it's going to homecoming. Maybe it's, being part of the track team, whatever it is. There should be family goals. There should be community goals. Every child learns from all different sources. And what better way for a child to learn how to value people than to give back in the community? And so there are, working volunteering at the food bank. There's things you can do in different shelters, in soup kitchens. There's things you can do if an organization is having a fundraiser. For example, Alzheimer's has a huge fundraiser usually, and they use volunteers to work all of the ticket entry welcome area, volunteers to pass out food, and lots of organizations do that. Of course, now it's harder because it's not in person, but they're still doing everything they need to do. They're just not doing it in person to raise that money. Nonprofits are suffering right now, and so that's a great place for you and your child to do some community service together, or at least have the conversation and let your child pick what he or she wants to do. Um, I talked about a little bit already about learning from other parents, learning from advocates, dealing with evaluators, and you need to really to understand your child's disability and how it affects them in different situations within their life. These are the people you need to talk to. If you're looking for support groups, one of the best resources is yellowpagesforkids.com, and then you just click on Michigan, and it will it goes by interests and needs, which is really helpful, and it'll talk about like if you need emotional support, are you looking for programs, are you dealing with a special education issue, do you want to get involved with school reform. So it's really fun and interesting to go through the resources that they have there. So, again, parents, you do have the most significant role in your child's future. You started the project, um, and let's deliver it with an award winning end. So, uh, that's it for today. We will continue to do the intro to the toolkit tomorrow. We'll talk again about plan, prepare, and advocate. And tomorrow we're gonna talk um, about the parents, a little bit more about the parents' role and really how you need to take care of yourself in order to take care of your family, how you need to build relationships, and then we will kind of switch gears and talk more about learning the rules of the game, the law, as well as policies, and then looking at obstacles to success and how to resolve conflicts will be later in the week. Um, and so I hope you all have a wonderful day. It's beautiful outside. Go take a walk. And I'm feeling a little sensitive today because my doggy is sick, and she was my first pet. And I'm just crossing my fingers, and I hope all of you will too, that she's okay in the coming days. Um, so, kiss your dog. Have a great day. Bye.